Hi, welcome back to CS 170. We're in week number 8. We're gonna just do a couple quick little things before we get into the topic for this week, and I'm just gonna do a quick short video hopefully on this one. So we're in modules. I'm gonna go to schedules, students. Let me zoom in on this. All right, so here we are on number 8. Right, so we're doing arrays and loops, and this is in chapter 20. And in recitations, you're going to be covering functions. Okay, I know some of you, like the TAs or recitations, may have gone ahead or gone behind or whatever, but this is kind of what the schedule is right now. Okay, so let me come over to my PowerPoint here. So here, we're just going to do these first few slides until we get to 20. Again, hopefully this helps to get everybody comfortable with some of the tools that are available to help you debug information. So here, this is like the console screen. You may or may not have covered this with your TAs and recitations. So this is something that you can get to when you do PF12. So I'm going to come back to here. I've already done the PF12 here, but I can just do it again just to demonstrate. So I'll come over to here and I'll do a paste of this, and then I can do a PF12, and that brings up your console. All right, and let me come back to this one because I already had the console up, and I'm going to match this up with some code. Okay, so I'm going to do side by side here. So this is the gas HTML, which corresponds to this gas HTML. And what I did was I just put this to fixed. Right? I dropped off the ED. Okay, and so you can see what happens here. If I run it, I do this, I click on it, and right when I do that, I get this. Okay, so this is something that pops up as you're running. Right, so this is something that gets caught because it came to here. I clicked on this and it figured out, well, I don't know what to fix means, right? It actually should be to fixed, right? The nice thing about this and Notepad, it actually kind of brings it up and suggests you that's what it should be. Okay, so let me save it, and I'm going to run it again, and now it runs fine. Okay, so this is one way you can catch some errors, and you know you can do console.log, right? So w3schools.com, here's an example. You can do console.log hello world. All right, something you may want to try on your own if you like. I know a lot of you have already done that to write the console.log. And as many of you know, I prefer just to kind of work off of js.dl. But I just want to show you this because this is one way to go about doing it, which I think some of the TAs may have gone over this with you. So this is an option for you to do. And what I just did there, you can see how the error pops up with the console. And you can do other things in terms of writing to the console. So you can kind of work like this. I personally didn't like to do it this way just because I had to flip back and forth between doing my HTML file and then refreshing this and running it. But it's up to you. You can kind of do this. So this is one option. All right, so let me close this and close this. Okay, now, actually I should fix this. This scratch pad has actually, for the newer versions, they've taken this out, or what they call deprecated it. So let me take this out. This is not really valid anymore. Okay. All right. Now there's another thing which I think is actually pretty interesting because you can be typing in stuff and then it's kind of telling you stuff here. So I thought that's kind of interesting. So you might want to give this a try if you haven't already done so. All right. And let me come back to here, and I've already got it up. Okay, so if I put these side by side, all right, so notice what it's done here, right? And this was a common error I alluded to in one of my prior videos. expected conditional expression, and you saw an assignment instead. So like I mentioned, that was a very common error that I saw for a lot of people on this. And just to reiterate, um, it's right here, right? So here's your conditional. A conditional means if, right? So if, and then there's an else down here. See this one equal sign here, right? And that's why you got this, right? So you can see here it's telling you line 10, which is good, and it's telling you this, right? And that's exactly what this is meaning. Expected conditional expression, and instead you got an assignment, right? So I can very quickly just go in here and fix it, and then right away it says no syntax errors, which is great. Okay. I don't know if I really would call this a syntax error. I would consider this more of a logical error. Okay, so you can run. Right? I demonstrated in my last video. I can run like this. I wouldn't consider this to be a syntax error, right? So if I fix it like this, um, this by this saying there's no syntax error, it kind of implies that this was a syntax error, which, like I said, a syntax error is like it just flat out doesn't work, right? A lot of you saw that where you got a blank screen or something like that. That's a syntax error. It encounters something either like before you even started anything or during the runtime. Okay, I consider something like this a logical error. Right, so it's still calculated. It did something, right? Although it probably didn't do what you expected it to do, right? So to me, that's a logical error. So I just bring that up because I know we had a discussion as part of the extra credit. What are the different types of errors and what does it mean? And some people also mentioned that you know the logical error could be unexpected results, but it still finishes on time. That's also not true. Um, you can actually have something unexpectedly go into an infinite loop. So you don't have to put that criteria in there, right? And sometimes you intentionally want something to be running as an infinite loop. So just because something runs as an infinite loop, it doesn't mean that's an error either, okay? Uh, what I'm saying is for like logical errors, it's just doing something that you don't expect it to do, right? Syntactically, it should be good, but it just came up with an incorrect result. Maybe for some strange reason, you want to do an assignment here as part of your if clause, right? Who am I to judge on that, right? So that's not really a syntax error, right? So I won't beat a dead horse. I'll just leave it at that, okay? So this is something that's pretty cool. You can kind of do stuff like this, and this particular type of error, you wouldn't catch it in JS.do, right, or some of the other things that checks it, which again, re-emphasize the point why this is not really a syntax error, okay? So here, this is JS.do, right, and you see a syntax error, but the syntax error is not coming from this. The syntax error is coming from here because I intentionally took out this open paren, right? And just to reemphasize that point, let me put that paren back in here. Right, all good, right? So the fact that you have this here, this single equal instead of a double equal, didn't really do anything for JSDO. JSDO, from a syntax standpoint, thought this is all good, right? So again, to emphasize what I just mentioned before, this is not a syntax error, right? This is a logical error. Let me run it, and 10. Okay, so that's that. Now the other thing is, you might see over here, they kind of did the if, and then they put in the statement, then else this, right? So obviously they didn't put in the curly brackets. I prefer to put in the curly brackets because it's very easy for you to make a mistake with this when you're thinking you're actually processing a whole block when you're actually only processing the one line from the if statement. So forget about this else statement here. If you only had this and you didn't have a curly bracket and you had this, okay, that's fine, and it would work. But then if you had another line here right after it and you're thinking, oh yeah, that's going to get picked up also. If you're looking at code quickly, it's very easy to mix that up and thinking, oh, this is a block. So to me, like, why not just play it safe and just know for sure that you have the block set up, and then whatever's in that block is exactly what gets operated on when you do the if statement. Okay, so that's my suggestion here, just to help from a readability standpoint and just making sure you know exactly what's going on when you do this if statement. Okay, so just my own personal preference and my suggestion there. All right, so you have this guy here. It's the same thing as here, but I prefer to keep these curly brackets in here. And as I mentioned in the previous lecture, I like to line up my brackets for one block like this, right? So this else statement, if I did another if in here, then I would, indent it so all my curly brackets line up like this. Okay, and this is how I can keep from getting confused on the nesting. Okay, so that covers JSDO and kind of differentiates that from this validator. So this validator actually is pretty good. It gives you a couple of nice bits of information, such as like when you're doing these variables here, if you end up declaring variable and not using it down here, it thinks, oh, maybe you messed something up. You were intending to do something and you forgot to include it or something like that. Right. The other thing is, which I think is kind of cool, and there's other, this is not exclusive to this, there's other things that do this also, right? But you can see if I do like this, I'm typing, because it expects that you're going to be using something that you've declared, it actually gives you a hint. And then once you've typed it halfway, you can just hit return, and then magically, there you go, you got the whole thing. And that's because I declared given temperature up here, and then it knows that you might be using that, right? So I only do this, and right away it looks it up and sees that, right? And then I just have to hit return, and it saves me some time typing it. Also saves me some mistakes I might make. Okay, and you can see while I'm typing, it's already doing something over here to say, hey, look, you put something out here, it's missing a semicolon. You're expecting to do something, right? Obviously you're just not going to do this, right? You're going to do something with this, right? So I could be oops, hit that by mistake. We do like an equal sign. Okay, all kinds of errors here. And then me say 4 plus 5, right? And you can see I have like this close paren already. I didn't even get to that point, but the computer already brought that up for me. So I can just go here and I already have the matching close paren, let's say. Right, and then over here it's reminding me, hey, you forgot to put in a semicolon. So I should put in a semicolon, and that's kind of good. Okay. I mean, that's another thing. I know some people have, say, oh, you don't need to put in a semicolon. I would just say, just go put it in there. It's fine. You can go back and forth on that, but to me, it's not a big deal. Just put in a semicolon for your code here. Okay, and there you go. All right, so hopefully that gives you some insight there. And I just put this onto the slide just so you can refer to it, because sometimes you might not remember to look it up on the video or something like that. So I just took what I just showed you here with the syntax error. I put this back in here so I can do that. And before I even did anything, I already caught a syntax error. Okay, so this is an error or syntax error that caught before we ran anything, so it's not a runtime error, right? So another thing to point out there. But I just wanted to show this to you on the slide, so you can see this when you go into files, allow resources. I already dumped out this as a PDF. Okay. Yeah. So here's another one. Okay, and see here. Can see if we can type this in quickly. Okay. So var and cats equals number. And while we're doing this, I think this is like, again, another way you can handle the whole number bit, right? So you're expecting a number for this. So it's doing this number in front of the prompt. So it's making whatever you pull into here to be a number, right? That's what this means here. Some of you may have seen other ways to make these into a number. But the important thing is you're setting this up so that this variable can be treated as a number, not a string. Okay. How many? This. I should type it into the other thing and then put it into here, right? So var Ellen cats. And I'm going to be lazy. I'm just going to copy and paste this guy right over to here. Okay, same thing. And then I have a var total cats. And I would prefer to initialize this to be 0. Okay, now let's do our if statement. If Anna cats is less than 0. And then we have a or. Where's my my pipe at? Okay. Ellen cats is less than 0. Open curly. Alert. Error. And oops. Else. Ellen cats. And then we have alert for the total cats. Right, and just for the heck of it, let's go back into the validator. So I'm going to go back to here, to this online validator. I'm going to paste this in here. Right, so we have an issue. So line 7. Where's line 7? Oh, okay. Well, I forgot to close off the curly brackets. And there we go. Alright, so nice. Missed out on a curly bracket here. And let me put that back into here. Should have just pasted it back in the other way, but it's fine. Alright, so here we go. So we're going to run it, and let's break it first. So let's do a -1, and then 0. So we got an error, which is fine. Then let's do 2 Anna cats, 3 Ellen cats, and we got total cats of 5. Okay, so nice and simple, but hopefully this gives you like a little feel about you know, just putting in code, running it right away here, and in this case I made an error and I was able to pick it up using the JavaScript validator. Okay, so hopefully you find these type of toolings interesting and useful to get your codes sorted out faster. Don't forget, you got these things to refer to help you. I I think these things are quite helpful. W3 Schools has a whole bunch of examples, so you should be able to pick that up. So take a look at that. I'm going to pick up with the rest of the stuff in another video. Okay, thank you.